What we will do, to be fair, for anyone, as we've got quite a lot of people who are joining for the first time, we'll just do a quick introduction to myself and my colleague. We've both done a bunch of webinars in the past, but I've done quite a few. So I'm Cameron, I'm the commercial director of Allsea, and then of course.
Yeah, I'm Chris. I'm the senior business manager here at Allsea Technologies. For those that joined part one, you might be fed up of seeing us today, but for those that haven't joined or didn't see part one, this is going to be a nice opportunity for you to see the process of the DVD installation. So look forward to showing you all some tips and tricks, and hopefully at the end you'll have a fantastic LED wall to look at.
Excellent. Okay. As I said, we'll hold on for another minute or two, and then we'll jump into just explaining what we're going to be installing today, and then we'll actually get into the installation. One point that I will make quickly as well is that, as many of you know, we'll be moving to a new facility in the next few months, which is considerably larger. A few partners have asked me about the concept of coming in for installation training, doing things like this. It's something we'll definitely be expanding into, but we can currently accomplish right now. So if you've got anything where you feel, oh, I don't really feel confident in how that gets set up, obviously we can help with that. Or if you want to come in for training, we are more than equipped to be able to help you with some specific training as well. We'll just hold on for one more minute and then we'll jump into the explainer. What we'll do, I'll just switch over to the slide that we have to explain what we're going to be installing today. So today's installation is going to be for our indoor LED products. This is not just about how to install it, because a lot of people will be relying on third parties or our own engineers for the installation, but also just to understand the building blocks of this technology and how it all goes together to form an overall display. Obviously, the goal is to get this all completed within an hour. If that's not possible, it may run over slightly, maybe because of questions, but the plan is to get it all done within 1 hour as well. So what we're installing today on this wall is 3 cabinets wide, 3 cabinets tall, indoor LED. It's P1.8 resolution, so that's one of the highest that we stock, but we can produce a higher resolution if needed for projects. But then also we are using the GOB, so that is resin coated LED. If I'm completely honest, the whole reason that we're doing that is so that we can make sure that there's no chance we'll break it during this live demo. So we've got a little bit extra resilience, because both myself and Chris, though a little bit technical, neither of us are engineers. So you've got basically 2 salespeople installing an LED wall, wanting to give us some kind of safety rails a little bit. Well, that's where GOB comes in for that extra damage protection. Okay, without further ado, we'll switch over to our second camera, which is run by our cameraman Malachi, and we'll do a bit of an explanation. So Malachi, we're going to start off just to explain on the wall of what we've done here. So a little bit of a basic wall that we've put together here. It's just some sheets of 18mm hardwood plywood, and then we've got some timber behind it just to hold it up with some counterweight. But the idea is just, this is the type of wood that would be used to reinforce a wall if a wall wasn't strong enough and needed to spread the weight across multiple studs. 18mm ply is what's commonly used for that, so we're just using that because it's easy to install to. You'll notice we've done a slight bit of the install so far, in that we've put 1 rail up. We will be showing you how to put the second rail up. We just want to give ourselves a kind of starting point to go from, rather than you all watching us sitting, measuring and drawing lines. So we've got the first rail up, but this solution is going to take 2 rails as well. Now, with indoor LED, we do build it by the columns. So there are individual cabinets. Do you want to switch the view over down to looking down here? We're just going to get down on the floor here, Malachi. So this solution is going to be 3 cabinets wide. So this is an individual cabinet, and then 3 cabinets tall. So Chris, do you want to just quickly take us through kind of how this all goes together?
Yeah, certainly. So those who are familiar with our indoor LED products, we have a standardized size for our system. So the first thing with regards to the cabinet is the physical dimensions. So we're looking at 640 on the horizontal and 480 on the vertical. So that's whether it's a 1.8 GOB like we're using today, an SMD, or even a 2.5 or a 2.5 high rise. It's all the same. One of the nice things that we have already pre-done within the system is we have already a data cable for our image feed, as well as power already pre-connected to the board. So that does save a bit of time. You know, historically systems use a lot of ribbon cables, which is quite sort of time consuming. However, this makes it a very simple system to set up. You'll notice these two arrows here pointing upwards. So these tell you in which way to actually install the cabinet. Obviously up being up. You never want to install them up sort of upside down effectively. So there's a nice little visual cue here. We also have these rubber grommets as well. So there's one on the right and one on the left. The reason for that is, I mean, we're just installing on a flat wall at the moment, so we won't be using these. But if you're pulling cables through a void or through any conduit, you can actually bring the cable for both data and power in through this little grommet here. It's just a little rubber grommet, you know, and it gives you a nice clean presentation at the end of the install. On the side of the cabinets, we have these little pin hooks here. Now, you'll see this in action shortly, but these allow you to horizontally align the cabinets when they're actually installed on the wall. It's important to note that as you reach the edge, particularly is the way we look, it would be the left-hand side, is you actually remove these. And this can be simply done by just unscrewing the little screw that's inside and just pulling the little catcher out. That will enable you then to install the side protection, which again just gives you a nice aesthetical piece. And there's two of these little sockets per cabinet. So effectively in our installation, we've already removed 6 just to make it nice and easy.
Just to add on that as well, obviously we talked about all this guide pins and everything. A lot of stuff that comes with any of our products, whether it's LCD or LED, is the experience that we have in nearly 2 decades in the digital signage industry, which means that when we show people who are familiar with these installations, oh, we've made this feature and this feature, it's usually come from our engineers who are heavily embedded in actually installing it. Have gone, oh, it would be nice to have this, and so we've developed that. Or third-party installers working for our partners where they've fed back and then we've created based on that as well.
Another interesting point to note is that with this particular generation of our indoor LED solution, they're actually all the part components are pre-magnetized. So that includes the cabinets, but also the modules that you'll see shortly. Historically, there were methods where you had to physically screw magnets in, again, very time consuming. But now we have multiple magnets, you know, it's literally 9 per module. So it's nice and secure, and they're just connected by a single port for each module system. So it just makes it nice and clean. On the rear side of the cabinet, we have these 2 holes here. And what these are for the little hooks that mount onto the rail. So as you can see, they just simply screw on. Okay, and this will enable you to hook the back of this particular cabinet onto the rail that we've pre-installed, and we'll show you how that works as well. But fundamentally, at the back here, you also get a better view of the cable management system as well. So yeah, it's a really nice layout there, and just nice and simple.
Shall we start off by basically, as we said, the general install process for indoor LED is to basically on the floor. That's why we have this tarp here. Build the columns. You're putting the columns together. It's a very simple process, but it means that you can lift them onto the wall as entire columns. Now we've gone as tall as doing 6 in an entire column that was then lifted all as one piece. They're very strong once they go together, and they also have these little guide pins, so aligning them is incredibly easy. Shall we start connecting these up?
So we're just going to show you here. So on the bottom of the cabinet, if I just tilt this up slightly, you'll see a number of holes. So we've got a cable management channel here. And we've also got a joining screw here. So all we simply do is we align these 2 screws to the relevant screws on the opposite cabinet. Okay, so if we just do that. Okay, so they slot in nicely. And then we've got 2 screws that simply feed through top here. And we can just loosely tighten them for the time being. This can actually be adjusted on the wall itself.
They're both Phillips and kind of spanner heads, so you can attach them with either.
Okay, so it's important to this point not to tighten them too tightly, because you can actually feel with your finger if there's a slight little lift on one of the cabinets compared to the other, and obviously you want it to be as flush as possible. So if you were to move this cabinet up slightly and bring in the 3rd cabinet in the column, and we do the same again. And what we can also do from an alignment perspective, we have little 2 guide pins on the top here. So there's one on the right and one on the left. And that enables us to guide it nice and straight into, say, the adjoining cabinet. So again,
we just want to, if we lift it just to make sure the blanket's not getting into it. There we go.
Yeah, always avoid a blanket.
You can see we're just finger tightening. We'll slightly tighten them afterwards. Just finger tightening, and then just a little touch with the screwdriver.
So there we have our three cabinets together. The next thing is to daisy chain these for both data and power. What we've actually done with this bottom cabinet, we've actually removed the Ethernet cable that you can see here. The reason we've done that is that from the LED controller that will send the image content, that will be connected into this port here. Okay, because this enables you to daisy chain, we have an in at the bottom and an out at the top. So effectively what we can do, we could take the second cabinet with its Ethernet from its input and go all the way through the cable management hole, around the back of the screw heads and into
There we go.
Into there. Okay, and then we just repeat the process going up to the third cabinet.
Additionally, whilst Chris is doing that process, I'm going to be looking at the power on the right-hand side, which is an almost identical process. So tucked behind here is the power for the bottom one, and we're going to be daisy chaining upwards. So I'm going to feed this power cable through the cable management hole and up to the next one where I'm just connecting it in. There we go. So power is going up from the bottom cabinet to the next one, and then we're going to continue up another cabinet where again I'm going to tuck it through the cable management hole. There we go. Up to there and connected. There we go. And that's power daisy chain. So we've got power is going to come through the bottom, which we'll go into detail in a moment. So that's where our mains power is going to come in, and then it's going to daisy chain up through the cabinets to the top one. Now, it is possible on some larger installs that we might then snake further. We might go to the next column. For the sake of this install, we're going to be doing 1 power per column just to keep things nice and simple.
Yeah, and just a tip really when it comes to this side of things, always make sure that you use the cable management hole. If you weren't to do that, you need to run the cable over the top, you wouldn't be able to install the modules because you wouldn't be physically able to connect to the magnet. So you always use the cable management on the right for the data and the left for the power. And that essentially is a 3 cabinet column all ready to go. So the next thing that we would look to do is to turn the unit over, and then we will actually place the mounting rail bars for obviously hanging. So if we just turn this over. Okay, and again, we've got obviously each cabinet as is identical. So we have top, the middle and the bottom. Generally for an LED wall of this size, we'll only really generally use the top because that's where the majority of the weight is. But to add a supportive weight as well, we'll also use the bottom. And this is where we will actually position the bottom rail when we go to transfer it to the wall. So again, we can just screw these in. These use the same screws as per the joining of the cabinets.
One thing that I'm doing here, as I'm tightening, I'm just pulling the bracket down just to make sure that there's consistency, that there's not any misalignment. So if I just pull the bracket in the down direction, it's just going to make sure that it's consistent across all the brackets we install. There we go. Fantastic.
And there we go. So essentially now we have 1 full cabinet row ready to go. So we can actually, because we've connected these all together, we can now take them. And what we actually have here is our right-hand side row. So this will go on the right-hand side of the wall. So what we could actually do is just hang that up directly.
Now, what you'll find as well is our cabinets are incredibly light. Off the top of my head, they're around 6 kilograms each. So to be fair, this is technically a one-person lift. You've got 18 kilos total. We've just done it for 2 just to make it easier, but we've done plenty of installs where multiple of these columns are lifted by one engineer very easily.
Okay, so that's the basic process for connecting a column. That could be expanded to either 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, depending on how big a wall you want. Okay, so we actually have 2 other pre-made columns ready to go. So what we will also do is we'll position those on the wall, maybe one of those, and actually we'll show you how we put in the bottom rail. That will be a nice little feature. So I'll just grab one of these.
You got the end. That's it.
Guys, just a really quick one while they're grabbing the pre-made column, which was obviously assembled in the same way. If anyone's got any questions at any point, obviously fairly informal webinar, so please feel free to unmute your mic and just shout out any questions you've got as we're going along, or feel free to use the chat as well, and we can either cover them in real time or cover them at the end anyway.
Okay, so what we're going to look at now, we've just put 2 up temporarily so that we can use them as a guide. This is kind of a little installer trick. We can now use these as a guide for the placement of the second rail. So these have the hooking piece on the back, so we can bring that rail in underneath and align it properly. We'll mark it, we'll pull these back off, and then we'll install that rail. Yeah, sure, we need to take a look at that. We just bring that in from below, sure. That's in there, and then I have a pencil here, which we will just mark.
Go flat.
Huh?
Go flat again.
Get something right. You just mark that, and this is just for guidance. We're going to pull it all off the wall now, and then we'll use the spirit level to properly align it. We pull that one off first, and I'll take this one as well. This is our middle cabinet. So now we'll just place this on the floor. Okay. So if we grab our spirit level, and we'll just get a proper lot. You want to come across this way as well? Okay. Once we've got that aligned, I'll support that so Chris can get the screws. Good. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. Okay, I've got that supported. Oh, no, I haven't. Sorry, there we go.
As we said at the beginning, when I explained, so just bear with.
We just want to show that 2 non-experts can still install this. It's a Lauren and Hardy sketch, basically. Okay. Yep, definitely got it now. And then Chris will just put a couple of screws next to the drill. Just chuck a couple of screws in just to support it, so then I can assist with putting some extra screws in. For the purpose of this, we're just using wood screws just for the demonstration. Of course, it's important to use the correct fixings depending on the wall that you're going to be installing into. Just check that. Yep, fantastic. I'll grab my drill and we'll just quickly finish off the screws into these. Thank you very much. We'll just quickly, apologies, this will just be a couple of minutes of work, quickly putting some screws in, just to make sure it's fully supported. Good, you just chuck that one in, and that's our 2 rails. From here we can put our cabinets back, so we'll take the column behind you, Chris, is our right column, isn't it? You've got that. I'll take our middle column. Okay. Bring that over a little bit, and then we'll grab our left column. So again, the process is just repeated. It's exactly what we did, but we've just pre-assembled a couple of columns just to save time on the webinar. I'll just bring this over for you. Okay, fantastic. Now, Malachi, you may want to get a little bit closer so we can just show how we're joining the individual cabinets here. We go left to right, shall we, Chris?
Yeah. So the little guide pins that I told you about earlier, these are what we use to
Align in with
the cabinets together. So as we push them in, they will actually click into place, as we can see here. So these are all now clicked into place.
These here. Oh, just make sure it's in focus. There we go.
Yeah, and that's these little clips here. Cameron, you want to do the ones on the right?
So you can see here. So I'm just going to wiggle it a little bit just to make sure that it all gets aligned. I'm just going to put a bit of pressure, but you can see it emerges on the other side. See, that's aligned there. And as we go down, it kind of clicks for most of them. You can see that the top of the pin emerges, just to give me some guidance. And then we're going to support that with bolts as well. We'll show you, I've just seen a question come up for the data chain for the complete wall. What we'll do is we're going to power this up before the modules go up, and we'll walk you through all the connections again, just to make sure everyone is understanding. Do you want a couple of bolts? You need
so this next process here is just to make sure that obviously horizontally that the cabinet rows are securely connected. So what we can do, again, we can use the same screws that we've used to join the cabinets vertically, and also apply the rail holders. And we just go into the hole just directly underneath where the little staging pin is. So we can just go in loosely. Now, it's always an idea to do this by hand initially. As I said earlier, one of the key things is to make sure that you're flush with each cabinet next to each other. Makes it easier then to install the modules at the end. So we've just got a couple here.
And I'm just repeating the same process as Chris, just for this column, just to save a bit of time. Well, oh. You can see it's very firmly secured at both across the horizontal and the vertical. So it basically functions as one complete display once it's all secured together. But the idea being from a modular solution is that you can produce this in the shape and size required for the overall project.
What we can actually do at this point now is just roughly run our fingers down the edge of where the cabinets join, just to make sure that they are flush with each other. Again, this will make it a bit easier to obviously mount the modules. You can sometimes, if there's a slight variance in a wall or a structure, maybe a custom framework already or a pre-existing framework, that there might be very, very small differences. And obviously the idea of loosening and tightening these screws will allow you to then create a flat. What we can then do is just finally check our level. And we can see that we're absolutely spot on. So for experts, this is for not experts, this is
In terms of our not being experts, I said, as long as within this webinar the wall doesn't fall down, I'm happy.
Yeah. So we've achieved that goal already. Yeah.
So we'll just quickly secure. I've put that spanner there for you, Chris, if you want to tighten these ones up. What you will find, obviously, we're erring on the side of caution and telling you about checking the join and making sure that it's all aligned. What you will find is that any issues you might see with that is typically with a very large install. This is a very small install where we're using single rails. And so that rail is very thick, it's very strong metal, so there's not really any flex. So you'll find that it's going to compensate for the wall regardless. So for this installation, we wouldn't expect, I've not been very careful with how I've been screwing mine in, because over this small area, it's unlikely to cause an issue. But it's just something to be aware of. If you're doing a 6, 8 meter wide, 10 meter wide, it's just something to be conscious of as well. What we're going to do as the next step is we are going to look at the cabling for the power and data. Obviously, we've daisy chained inside the cabinet. It's about how we connect to the bottom there. So what I'm going to do is take you through how we do that in terms of taking power into the bottom. So Malachi, if you just take a look down here, if we just focus down here. So at the bottom of the power daisy chain, we have this single connector. So if we look over to this one that I've pre-prepared here, so this one has an extra connector on where I've added this little junction block so that I can add my power to whatever length that I want. Now, I'm going to take you through manually how I do that, because it's a really simple process. We are looking at future batches and future products to have some very standardized connectors, which literally just clips in, but this is about 2 minutes work. And of course, our engineers are always on hand to lend a hand. If we pull back a little bit, Malachi, we're going to do a little bit of close up here with some of my favorite tools that I've picked up over the years, which can be very quickly done. So I'm just going to quickly take you through how fast we can strip this. If we can just focus on where my hands and get focus here. Perfect. A good focus there. So all I'm going to do, I've got this connector that's going to connect to the bottom cabinet. I'm just going to quickly strip the wires. So if we get that in focus, strip there, pull that sheathing off. And we've just basically got our live, our earth, and our neutral. I've got another, I could just use those same strippers, but I've got these ones that are kind of pre-configured to this depth. Try and keep me in focus if you can, Malachi. And all I'm going to do is quickly snap off the ends of these. One end, two end, and three end. So we've got, try and get that in focus if you can. So that's the three ends. This is going into the cabinet. I'm just going to drop this on the floor. I'm going to take a cable. So these are the cables that we include. Very thick cable, can handle a lot of power very easily. When LED first turns on, it draws a lot of power for a few milliseconds, so we need that to be ready. The cable that we supply already has the sheaths pre-stripped, so I just pull them off, and we've got the same. So live, neutral, and ground. And all we've got is a little junction connector like this, which again is color coordinated. So I'm just going to slip this in my pocket so I've got a bit of hands free. So we've got our mains cable here with our three ends, and all I'm going to do is, if we keep that in focus we can, I'm going to align them to match the junction. So we're going to snap these all open, and then we are going neutral to ground to live, and then we're going to just feed them in. They're fully fed in, tap it down, done. I'll take my other end, and we're going to exactly do the same. So we're going to go again. That is going to be the brown for live, neutral in the middle, ground in the middle, and then neutral on the right. So I'll get them all lined up like this, and then we're just going to feed them in. So I'm just going to twist this. It's got a little bit rough, just to make sure it all goes in neatly. And we're just going to feed that in. There we go. Nice and snapped. Done. Right, so what I'm going to do with this, if we zoom into that bottom right cabinet, Malachi, we'll just see how this connects, but it's nice and simple. So literally, I've just joined that power cable to this connector for the LED. And we are just going to, let me just take this connector off, zip tie off, sorry. Zip tie comes off. And what we're doing for this installation, we could have less power cables if we need to, but just to keep it nice and simple, we're going to do one per column. So we're coming in through this bottom hole here and on to that connector there. Okay, we've got a few other cables here, so I'm just going to connect them to each of the bottoms. So if we go from one to the next, again, the ones we supply are already pre-stripped at the ends, and I'm just going to chuck them into these junctions at the bottom. Now, for the sake of this install, I'm going to leave the junctions obviously out. That's not how you do it for a normal install. I could tuck it back within the cabinet, but just for the sake of expediency, we're going to do it like this. So we're going to do live on the right, neutral on the left, and ground in the middle. We're just going to just match the colours. And in there. And we're in. Just wiggle it about, make sure it's got a strong connection, and snap down. Chris, do you want to do the last one?
There are two salespeople putting up the swamp. The salespeople putting up the wall.
Yeah, and then orange to brown. There we go. So we've got power, power, and power. And then what we're going to do is just cable it up to, we've got some extension leads over here, so I'm just going to get them all powered up. Just plug it into standard main sockets. One for there. Make sure it's not down. My hand. Just fully lift it up and it will just replace if you like. Yeah. Okay, right, and so we are going to put power in, and fortunately, we're already starting to see it be successful. Power. Right, so what we've got here, red light, red light, red light, red light, red light, red light, all good. Fortunately, the connection in this terminal went a little bit wrong. It's not illuminated. So what we're going to do is pull the power out of this one. I'm just going to make sure it's the right cable. So we're just going to quickly re-put that into the junction just to make sure it's all gone in firmly. But you can see our two cabinets are working perfectly. So let's go like that. Pull this back. And all we're going to do is go in like this. There we go. All the way in, nice and firm. And hopefully, ta-da! Right, that is LED cabinets on the wall, powered up perfectly, daisy chained ready. We will connect the network cables. Do you want to grab that cable? We'll connect the cables to the controller. That is one thing where, Chris, do you want to just take us through how we're doing the data daisy chain?
So with a lot of our LED projects, and my customers will know particularly, I will always pre-map how the configuration works. There is a limitation to the amount of cabinets that you can use for a single power connector, as well as obviously data, which comes from the LED controller itself. But in the configuration we've got here, as you see, obviously 3x3, what we're actually going to be doing is split it into two separate entities. So these first 6 columns here will be daisy chained. So this cable here will be used to daisy chain this receiver board to this receiver board, and then this will be kept separate. And we program that within the Novastar system that drives the image. So what I'll simply do is I'll just take our Ethernet here. Now, of course, this is slightly longer than the ones that we have for our obviously daisy chain.
For the vertical daisy chain.
Yeah. So I can get this off. Just sing.
What I'm going to do while Chris does that as well is for this daisy chain, our entry point. So from the LED controller into this wall, we're going to have one entry point coming in at the bottom left and one at the bottom right. So I've just got standard network cable. I'm just going to feed one in to the bottom right and then into the available port. That's just going to start the daisy chain on the right that's going up the column. And then I'm going to do the same on the bottom left. And these are going to be our cables that feed from the LED controller. So what that LED controller does, we're not going to go into the configuration of that. One of the reasons is it takes a little bit of time just in terms of the software's a bit slow. Just as standard for the industry, it takes a little bit of time. We'd be spending 20 minutes just waiting for it to load things. But also because our engineers are happy to help via TeamViewer and actually do all of this part for you. So it's not something you need to fully understand. It's not a problem at all. I'm just going to connect this cable to the bottom where Chris is here. Just into this bottom cabinet here. And toss it back there. Now, all we're doing here is I have got one cable going into the bottom left, one cable going to the bottom right, and then Malachi, if you want to try and zoom in down here a little bit, just in this corner, and tilt down. So on the floor here, obviously we've got our extension leads. We also have a standard All-C media player, and below that is a standard Novastar controller. So I'm going to tilt it onto its front face. And on the back, we have got a bunch of RJ45 ports, 6 of them in fact. So this could run a much bigger LED wall. The left is going to be, that's port 1, isn't it? So port 1 into there. That's how we've planned it. And then port 2 for the rest of the display. That's it. We're all plugged in. Media player's plugged in via HDMI to this and all powered up. So we should be good to go. Yeah. Okay. Next step, we're going to be looking at modules. Do you want to just quickly show on the camera, Malachi, the modules? So Chris here is just unpacking one of our GOB modules.
Yeah, so this is our P1.8 GOB module. As Cameron touched on briefly at the beginning, these actually have a resin protection. So they're more ideal for areas where you will see footfall, high visibility, etc. They also do offer an element of water protection as well, whereas typically with SMD you don't get that. On the rear, I touched on the magnetic points that are housed within the cabinet earlier, where you can see exactly the same here. So we've got 6 on each side. Okay, really, really nice. And then we've just got the one single connector. As I touched on again, obviously, previously you would have had separate power, you would have separate ribbon cables, which can lead to quite a messy installation. And also, if there are issues with those cables, they do need to be changed out. So in this orientation, just very, very nice and simple. And it's just a case of aligning the magnets and the interface socket here. And obviously, we've also got these 2 up arrows. So it tells you exactly which way to position the module in the very same way that the cabinet does as well. So as you can see, just to the side of me here. So Cameron, if you just want to place the first module on.
I will do the honors. There we go. We're going to start from the top right. It's really easy to align. There we go. And we're starting to see our content already. That's the cool thing about LED. As you add the modules, doesn't matter which module we put where, but we're going to slowly start to see the content that we prepared. And it looks like it's all properly aligned as well. So me and Chris will continue. I'm going to take a stack of these. So you can see they're very well packaged. So each of these pieces of foam has 2 LED modules in them. I'm going to show you the full packaging in a second, but let me just quickly do one column. So as I go in here, we're going to pull and module out. And the thing is, I can just do this by hand. I can just take a module and it's going to perfectly align itself. I use the module above it just to butt up against it. And we're good to go. There we go. Another module. This is the slightly time-consuming part, but as this is our new generation too, as Chris said, there's no cables to connect. I'm just snapping them into place. There we go. We can see the image is already starting to form. What I'll do, I'm going to do this stack of LED, and the next one I'm going to show you fully unpacking from how it arrives from Allsea so that you can fully understand the unboxing experience. So if we go up, we're going to try and get most of this column done. There we go. I will say the unpacking experience can be a decent part of the job. We did, I was stood there as a salesperson for a job we did, which was 6 meters wide, 3 meters tall. I probably spent about 30, 45 minutes sat on the floor just unboxing stuff because obviously it was about 350 individual modules. So it's quite a lot of boxes, but it's very easy to do. And it's very easy to kind of collaborate between individual engineers. There we go. What's nice about the GOB, the resin coated, is as I run my hand across it, it's a nice, smooth, damage resistant surface as well. So we've got a few more modules coming in from my side.
I think someone needs some help on the left-hand side.
Yeah. I was going to say it's not a race, but I'm feeling a bit confident. Let's go like this. Go. A couple more, and I'll just take you through the packaging of them as well.
Cameron, just to help out on the left-hand side. I don't think they're going on.
Okay, let's take a look.
They've got arrows on them. Which way up they should be?
You want to start on this column instead?
Yeah.
Nothing got power. I think that's overlapping wrong. We also have our colleague Kevin, our chief engineer. Kevin, do you want to lend a hand, Chris?
Yeah, I'll just do some dancing while Kevin does that. I'll give him.
Actually, to be fair, if Kevin helps with that, you might want to just adjust. I think some of these cabinets might be on a different brightness setting, so if you wanted to just quickly grab your laptop and just switch it over, that might be helpful.
Any of our partners who are in attendance today who have met Kevin will know he's got the magic touch, and there you're seeing that in real time.
I will say as well, there have been plenty of times when I've been doing something, had no idea what I'm doing wrong. Kevin comes and just does it, and it just works. So, yeah. Fine. I think I'm getting a cable in the way a little bit here. I'm going to start this column actually.
Anyone who's done a LED install will know this is the really satisfying part, especially if you've already got the content being fed. You can see it coming together as you're assembling it.
What I'd say, Marco, if you pull the camera back a little bit, I'm just going to show the full unboxing experience. So we just focus on this box a second. Let's watch the cable. So if we focus down here, and a little bit further down. Okay, so this is the box that I took some of the modules out. So just you can see, if you pull back a little bit, you can see the whole box, Marco. So each box, individually, you've got loads of space around the outside to protect from damage. They're wrapped in foil to protect from static, and then the foam is within there. Each stack is 10 LED modules, so 10, 20, 30 per box. I'm going to pull the package out here. It's all vacuum sealed. I'm just going to take my knife, cut that top off, and then you'll see we've got our modules. So this is just the unboxing that I did earlier. We can see how they're fully boxed. So I'm going to take this here. We'll just do a bit of clear up. Shuffle this foam over here just to keep everything clear. And then we'll continue putting this row together. Tom, if there are any questions coming through, I'm happy. Obviously, as we're doing this, I'm happy to answer questions.
Just thinking that actually. So yeah, there was a couple. Russell asked, can the cabinets be manufactured in portrait mode? But obviously, in most cases, that's not really required. But if you want to just elaborate on a little bit more on that, Cam.
Rarely there is a requirement that comes up sometimes for installing the cabinets in portrait mode. Now, our standard rail doesn't support that, but as many of you will be familiar, we are partnered with BTEC AV Mounts. And they are the experts in mounting, and so they have solutions to help us mount in any orientation. So the rare occurrence where you may want to mount the cabinet in portrait would be if you were trying to accomplish a very specific size. So of course, each cabinet is 640 by 480. So for instance, if you only had half a meter to fill, you would need to rotate the cabinet 90 degrees, but we can provide BTEC mounting that will allow us to do that. Any mounting where the cabinets are kept landscape, you'll be able to use our bracketry for that as well.
Brilliant. Another one, Cam, was Bolly has kind of addressed this one, but what is the maximum number of power connection in the daisy chain?
So on the indoor and outdoor, will be a little bit different. So for our outdoor LED, they're of course bigger cabinets. So our outdoor LED is 960 by 960 cabinets, whereas our indoor LED are of course smaller cabinets. So we typically recommend around 6 cabinets per daisy chain for the power. But then per project basis, we can advise on that as well. So we go up to 6 on the individual power cables, but we will give you advice on everything specific to your install. We'll specifically lay out the cables needed and confirm how many power sockets, because of course you've got the power for the individual LED, but also one socket for the media player, one socket for the controller. So there's a few things to consider there as well. But typically you're looking at 6 per daisy chain on the indoor product. For the outdoor product, we typically align to between 4 and 5 cabinets per daisy chain, but that covers a lot larger area because obviously they're each nearly a meter square.
Cameron, not wanting to tell you how to do it, but just one point that I found useful is when you're installing the panels you're doing now, if you start from the middle and work out towards the edge, you don't get that cramped feeling in the middle where you've got to really try and squeeze them in.
Yeah.
Just a small point.
Which, to be fair, I think at the moment Kevin's joined the install is exactly what he's done. I think Kevin was probably sat upstairs watching us going, they're going to go wrong, as we were going about it a little bit wrong. But this is where it's useful to do these types of things. We're going to follow this up with a recording video as well, so we've got this as a resource. But these little tips and tricks just make it go a little bit smoother.
One other question on the chat, Cameron. By the way, anyone who wants to add questions to the chat or just unmute your mic, feel free. So Umesh has asked, what is the pitch of this particular wall and maximum resolution?
So this one is a P1.8 resolution. I am going to quickly switch over to our slide, which shows the overall resolution of the display. So this particular install is 1044 pixels wide and 783 pixels tall. This is using our P1.8. So that's the highest resolution we stock as standard, but we can go down to lower pictures like P1.5 or even as slim as 0.9 where an installation calls for it. But what I have said is, even for some very high resolution projects, very rarely need. I mean, you can see the quality that's coming from this display. It looks incredible. We recently, I believe the partner may be on the call, so Genesis Wales, we recently did an install in a shopping centre that was actually using P2.5, but it was at a 4 metre height. And so from the ground level, it looked like P1.8. It was incredibly high resolution. Lee Gibson, I've just seen you've asked about the LED controllers. So we use a few standard controllers depending on the requirements of the install. So for the majority of installations, we use Novastar's standard 300 and 700 controllers, and they can support resolutions as high as Full HD. They can also support slightly custom resolutions. So when we want to do something really wide, they can actually support the width to be a little bit larger. So let's say we did 3840 by 600, it could support that. So it can take that 4K input, but just not the full 4K. But then we also stock their H2 range. Their H2 range is modular, where we can add components to make it capable to manage a much larger wall. But we stock and can provide up to 8K LED solutions very easily. So regardless of the size you're trying to achieve, we have the controllers in stock to be able to manage what you need.
Cameron, Lee also asked another question about aspect ratio. So do the panels allow for a perfect 16:9 aspect ratio to match 1080p input content? If not, what is the usual fix, stretch or letterbox?
So what we've got is we've actually got a graphic that's in our blogs. So if you search LED in our blogs, then there's an explainer for that. So with these 640 by 480 cabinets, there are a few preset sizes that you can build which exactly match 16:9. So if the goal is 16:9, that's the easiest way, is you just match that and it'll just scale perfectly to that 16:9 space. But then also we can do things like you say, letterbox, so we can add black bars to the top and bottom or left and right, or we can crop it in as well. So there's a few different ways to do it. Another is that we can stretch. So for some installs where it's only slightly, maybe it's 16 by 9.5, we can just stretch it a little bit. And if it's a large display, you really can't tell with the human eye. There's quite a few installs that I've seen out there where it's slightly stretched by like 5 or 10 pixels. You'd never be able to tell. But it just means that you can fit that content and have it going easily.
Thanks, Cam. One other question. So while installing the panels, there were some more brighter and some darker ones, but now they're all the same brightness. So how was that fixed?
Yeah, I can take that one. So this comes down to the Novastar controller that effectively enables you to calibrate where the signal is positioned. If you looked at obviously the daisy training, where we went in through the bottom here, we went up, across and down, and then the right-hand column was on its own. We map obviously the signal path, but also we can map the brightness. Now, typically for installs for indoor, they will generally be static, and we typically set them at sort of 80%, which is bright enough for a lot of scenarios. But there's two methods that you can actually use to change it. You can either do that manually, again, that's done in the Novastar software, or particularly for outdoor installations. And again, I've seen one of my partners is on here as well, where we do outdoor installs, we actually use a light sensor. So you can actually connect a light sensor to the Novastar controller and actually set certain parameters for time of day. That's particularly useful for out-of-home screens where you might be governed by council regulations or planning applications that you need to set a certain candela during daylight hours, certain candela at nighttime hours, but also a maximum average as well. So I've set these to roughly 71%, which is why now, once I reset that brightness information, you now see it obviously equal across the whole the whole screen. You don't use anything like the media player. You don't set the brightness on that, for example, in the same way that you would do like on an LCD display. It's done via the controller system itself. So as I say, it's either manual or it's automatic via the usage of a light sensor. And Cameron touched on the different types of controllers that we have. The small little 300 unit we are using for this wall does have an ambient light sensor connection. For larger walls where we're using maybe a P4, for example, and we're exceeding the physical capacity of the controller, we use a slightly bigger unit with more pixel count, but also they do come with light sensor connections as well. So it's nice and easy to do that. So hopefully
Brilliant.
that answers your question.
Thanks, Chris. Another question in the chat from Marco. What is the maximum length of the Ethernet cable from the Novastar to the LED?
Traditionally, I mean, we see if you're using sort of a high-powered sort of Cat6, obviously the limitations that are like 100, 150 meters. We've not really, I can't think of any scenario where we may have used even more than 10 meters, to be honest, because typically you would either have some form of control room, you might have a server rack, for example, where your hardware's going, located pretty close. In the example we've got here, where we've got our imaginary wall, there might be a room behind where we want to obviously keep all of our hardware so it's local. But 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 meters, you're fine. When it comes to more larger projects, you imagine Stadia, where you're talking lots of runs, then obviously you would use Ethernet boosters and so forth, and high capacity cable to do that. But for something like this, not necessary. Sort of.
I can just add to that as well, Chris. So we did have one install we did for Shrewsbury Football Club. And when that was installed, the control room was actually quite far away from the screen because they need to be able to obviously see the match and manipulate the content based on that. So there are Novastar controllers that are compatible with fiber optic cable. So rather than running network cable, there was network cable at the screen end, but that was converted to fiber optic, and then the maximum fiber optic runs in kilometers. So there is a way around it. So regardless of how far you need to go, we have a way to solve that as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. So Marco's also asked, are we getting Novastar controller with the LED or are we buying it separately? So obviously some of our all-in-one LED solutions will come with the controller as part of the package. Obviously for the modular solutions that we have, we can supply them separately. And again, as has been referenced, depending on the overall resolution will depend on the model. I don't know if either of you want to expand on that at all.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, all LED projects that we've shipped historically will have a controller that is dedicated for that particular size of LED. I touched on briefly earlier that the sort of pre-calibration can be done, and that will be done for a specific controller as well. So whether you're having a sort of relatively simple wall like this or a large wall, you can't see our quite large wall at the back there, we will actually choose the controller for you. For those partners that are on, and obviously newcomers to our webinars that are very well versed in this, obviously, yes, you can source your own. And primarily we use Novastar based receivers, which are pretty much industry standard. So we can specify it for you. We can obviously supply for you and obviously set up for you. So, all we physically need from you is a pixel pitch and a size, and then we can do the rest.
I will also just let everyone behind the curtain a little bit. The little whispered words between me and Kevin were Kevin saying, Cameron, why did you tighten it so much? Yeah. So maybe sometimes the fastest isn't always the best. So obviously Chris's side has gone well. I slightly over tightened. That's why Kevin's managed to correct that as well. And I think within a few seconds we'll have a completed LED install. One more module to go.
We can also link this back to the segue that we're not experts. So so we got pretty much 65% of the way there. So it's all good.
Fantastic.
Hey.
That's really good.
Very happy with that. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kevin. And I think, fortunately, things go wrong when things go live. And I think what's really fortunate here is the person who came to the rescue is the person who comes to the rescue on so many partner projects. And just know that you have that as support. So when these LED projects happen, sorry. So when you have these projects and you need a little bit of install help, we can provide Kevin, son, or our colleague Justin can come and join for that install and just give a little bit of a guiding hand. So it might be you're drilling holes and stuff, but they can help with that final alignment, the configuration, and then very commonly we actually have customers put TeamViewer on the computer, plug it into the controller, and Kevin takes it from there and configures it all completely remotely.
And just one final touch. We did notice within the supply of the LED market, obviously the wall's up now. However, if we just take the camera around a moment, just to the sides.
I don't know if it's going to reach, Chris. If you go to the left,
take it off the thingy.
Go the cable.
Right.
Let's just see if you can get it around the side. I'll watch the cable. Yeah, go ahead, Chris. We'll keep it.
Yeah, if you could see this part here, you can see the side of the LEDs actually exposed, which from an aesthetic perspective doesn't really look the greatest. And what we actually do with all of our indoor product is actually provide a protective edging. It's also a nice decorative feature as well. So we've actually got some strips here.
You can keep it on there, Chris. We'll bring it to you.
And we've got these little strips that simply clip in. So there's actually some mounting holes on the side, and all we simply do is we line these up, pop them in, and we now have a nice edge, and we can run those all the way down.
We'll just complete that whole column. I'm going to try and focus on the lower one, Monica. So we go. And that's just going to give you that extra protective edge and also make it harder for people to remove the modules without the proper tool. So it just gives you a little bit of added security as well as resilience.
And while you're on that topic, actually, there has been another question from Daniel. Can the modules simply be removed with a suction tool? And is there an option to calibrate a module in case one is damaged?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so to answer your question on maintenance, one of the great things about LED technology, particularly indoor, is the fact that it's hot swappable. So to touch on your first point, yes, and historically we used to have an air suction tool. Can only really describe it looking very similar to a sort of Dyson hand vacuum. But as technology has moved on, and particularly with this type of GOB, suction tools are available. So we can just simply place the suction tool on one of the modules. Now, based on my past experience with this wall, I'm not going to take it off. But, we can just simply then remove that module and place another module in exactly the same position. And because it's pre-calibrated, we can actually still have the content will just pop up instantly if we needed to. So we don't have to recalibrate any modules. The only difference you will potentially see is the age of the LED. So if you say we're installing today, like we had, if we did not have any spares for this particular type of LED wall, and we had to replace a module in maybe a couple of years, one would look a lot different in terms of its color, in terms of its brightness potentially. And this is a very similar scenario you tend to see in the world of video walls. You know, if you've got a 2x2, 3x3, and they've been in situ for some time and one fails and you need to change them, you'll always have one that's slightly brighter than the others and the colors don't match. What we do with all of the LED projects is, as a minimum, you will have a 5% spares. So dependent on, you know, if you've got 100 modules here, we'll give you 5 modules that you can keep for maintenance and servicing, etc. So
there was one other question on the chat from Stephen. How is the LED wall locked in place, preventing the video wall from being moved or lifted off?
One thing that we can do with that is that it's actually a step that we've kind of skipped. So I'll try and move into the camera. Before I answer that question, I'm just going to let Kevin remove one of the modules just so you can kind of see with a suction tool how that can be done. Now we have 2 types of tool. This is a suction tool because it's a resin coating, so it's smooth. For our SMDs, that's individual LEDs, we have a magnetic tool instead. But Kevin, if you want to just quickly show us removing a module. Hold on, I'll give you a microphone.
So first thing, we need a rough idea, find out which module we need to change. So looks like in here, and the push in, use this hand hold a little bit. Yeah, and then you can take it out.
Yeah.
Because when you pull out, when you push in, when you pull out, it's maybe if you don't hold it, maybe this one drops. So that's why you use this hand to hold a little bit, and then slowly pull it out, then that will be okay. Yeah. So once it's done, you can put back.
I'm going to take your mic. And just to answer your question about security, so there's a bit of a step. If we could just pull back on the camera a little bit, Mark, I'll get me reframed. There's a little step that we kind of skipped, which we would do as part of a permanent installation. So you will have noticed when we were looking at the back of the cabinet, Chris, I think we've got a spare cabinet, haven't we? Could you just grab a quick cabinet? So on there, there are 2 fixing points for attaching the little rail piece. Is there not, Chris? It's okay. So on the back, there are also 4 mounting holes towards the outside for using with third-party bracketry systems. So what we'd do in a standard installation is once all the cabinets are in place and aligned, we'd actually go into the corners of some of the cabinets and put a screw through the cabinet directly into the wall. So that means that it can't be lifted off or slid off or anything. Here we go. So we've got this cabinet here. So you can see on the back, there's actually 4 holes that go through. So we would use these holes from the front and put a screw through directly into the wall, so skipping the rail entirely, and that's going to prevent it from sliding around or being lifted off. Of course, obviously, once it's part of an overall wall, it becomes quite, a lot heavier and so harder to lift off anyway. Tom, did we have any more questions in the chat?
I think we've pretty much covered everything, guys, from the chat anyway. But if anyone does want to add anything to the chat, or I think there is a short Q&A section coming up. We have overrun slightly today, but yeah, there's still, please feel free to shout out any questions, guys. Unmute yourself or add them to the chat.
There are a couple of quick points we want to make as well. So just things that we've been talking about alongside doing this install are the services that we can offer and how we can help you. So as many of you know, we have a dedicated engineering team both in the UK and in our office in Belgium, and so we can assist with installs, whether that's assisting or completing the install without you. We can do both to help you with that, but it kind of adds an extra feather to your bow, an extra option for you to offer as a service and provide this fully packaged solution. So whether you choose to use your own engineers, third-party engineers, or our engineers, we can help in any regard and provide an engineer to help with that install as well. And linked into that, there's something that we are just releasing now. That is the All-See LED install cost calculator. So what this allows you to do, it's a really simple file that you can request from your account manager. And for UK mainland, you can simply put how many cabinets you want, what height, and where you want it installed, and we'll give you a cost. We'll give you an RRP as well. Of course, you don't need to align to that, but we're going to give you that install cost so you can go in and ask your account manager, say, I want a price for LED, I want a price for my install, done. Whole solution, you can put it together and easily quote an LED and hopefully win that project. And then there's just one more slide that we've kind of skipped off as well, but just in terms of drumming up some business for this, we're very happy to help you in any way in promoting it. We have a pretty extensive marketing team and marketing support. So if you want to go out and start promoting it, get it on your website. We have a full package put together with photos, spec sheets, technical drawings, videos, everything that you might want to put on your website. Just request that from your account manager and they'll be able to send that through to you within a couple of minutes and you'll be able to get started with promoting this product. If you do have any questions or if you need any help with this, please lean on your account manager, myself, or any of my colleagues at All-See. We're all here to help and we really want to push and help you to provide this product and add it to your range of products. Okay. With that, Tom, have we got any questions left for Q&A, or are we finished off there?
That's all from the chat, but again, we can hang on for as long as necessary, guys. So if anyone does have any other questions about LED in general, anything that was covered today, the cost calculator, anything at all, our LED installation services, please feel free to either unmute your mic or add the questions to the chat. Hopefully, people are okay with that we cheated a little bit today and got Kevin involved. But again, like Cameron said, it kind of demonstrates that if you are doing these installs, if it's your first time, we would recommend having one of our engineers on site just to familiarise yourself with the process, kind of help you build that confidence. So yeah, as Cameron's kind of alluded to, we can do everything for you. We can assist you, or we can provide as much or as little support as is needed from your end in terms of your own internal knowledge or resources.
Yeah, okay, I think we'll hold on a couple more minutes and then I think we'll close off this one. But I think hopefully a very successful webinar. I hope it's been useful to you all. And as I said, please lean on us as a resource. We're happy to help in any way. And we'll also put together a recording of this that you can kind of look back to as well. We may cut out a couple of our blunders, but other than that, you'll have as a general resource.
I'll get familiar with which arrow faces up, so for future reference. But yeah, no, hopefully it was helpful for everybody on the call, and I think it just fundamentally shows that it doesn't take too much time. I mean, we're at what 2:10 UK time at the minute, and it's taken just less than an hour to do that. So I think it just shows how easy something like this can be. There's not really a fear factor to be had as such.
It's quite a big display as well to be able to put together all of this within an hour. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Getting a lot of positive feedback on the chat, guys. Lots of people found it very useful, informative. So yeah, thanks to everyone for attending today, and hopefully everyone found it useful and giving everyone that extra little bit of confidence. Not in Chris obviously, but in our resources in general, and just to be able to facilitate you guys to have that confidence to start pushing LED a little bit more.
Thanks, Richard. That's a great comment. Yeah, I'm really glad I've just in terms of debunking how hard it is to do an install. I think for many years, many companies have made a lot of money from showing LED as a big black box of you don't know how to understand it. You need us. You need us to do this. You need to pay massive consultancy fees in order to have an LED project. Well, it's really simple. I've said to a lot of our partners, although you don't typically take the back off of an LCD screen, there's actually more parts in an LCD screen than there is in an LED display. Like there's very few parts that go into this. So once you understand the logic of it, it's just a duplication. One cabinet has a couple of parts in it, and it's just multiple of them. It's really quite straightforward once you get your head around it. And if anyone wants to have some hands-on training and get their hands dirty and install the screen, we can plan for that. So please reach out to your account manager, and we can give you some specific training and really build your confidence with this. Okay, I think with that, Tom, shall we close off for this webinar, and we'll hopefully see everyone on the next one.
Yeah, watch this space. Oh, there was one more last minute question. Is there a typical lifespan for the panel? By Greg Hunter.
I believe this is true of all of our LED. The indicative, obviously we offer our 3-year warranty as standard for 24/7 usage, and we can expand that up to 5 years if necessary at the point of purchase. But in terms of how long we anticipate it lasting, typically you're looking at around 100,000 hours as a half-life. So that's when it'll start to degrade. So off the top of my head, I think that's like 8 years or so. Of constant use, so they're going to last a very long time. I think of any product that you see out there in the market, LED is typically one of the longest lasting that you'll see stuff that's been 10, 15 years since it was been installed and it's still in place. So our longevity of our LCD products is incredibly high, typically 70,000 hour half-life, goes even beyond that for LED.
Brilliant. Yep, I think that concludes everything, guys. That's all the questions from the chat. And yeah, just want to say thank you again for everyone attending today. And yeah, watch this space for the next webinar topic. If anyone does have any specific topics that they'd like to cover, please feel free to drop an email to the email address on screen now, webinar@allc-tech.com, or have a chat with your account manager. We're more than happy to have that feedback and show you guys what you want to see, really.
Brilliant. Okay, shall we close off from there, Tom? Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it for taking all the time out to sit and watch us.